With this workflow, you can create your own council of historical figures and genius level advisors to help you solve all of life's questions, ranging from business to personal, and have your council bounce ideas off each other, disagree or agree with each other, and even call out other members of your council to respond next, allowing you to have your very own board of advisors comprised of whomever you want to have that will actually act like a real board. As always, you can download this n8n workflow for free from my free school community, where we give away over 30 different business-focused workflows, ranging from social media posting bots, executive assistants, lead and email scrapers, and more, with new free workflows coming out every week, along with tutorial videos, how-to guides, and a community of automation-focused business owners, all looking to collaborate and grow their businesses with AI-powered automations. You can also join our advanced community for weekly tech support calls, marketing and business growth discussions, as well as getting to pick my brain on n8n, AI automations, or business in general. All right, let's actually see how this workflow works in practice. So I've got this hooked up to an AI agent. Let's just come over here to Slack. And I've got a question here. It's like, hey, I've got a question about how to market my new AI agency and bring in more partners. Just go ahead and send that. And while we're doing this, I'm going to quickly talk about how this works, just at a top level. So over here, we have what is coming in. This is just kind of how we're processing the information coming from Slack. We're then going to do a pull from a Google spreadsheet. It's going to run it into an AI agent. That AI agent is then going to pass it to the counselor that we're addressing, and it can actually pass it to multiple of the counselors at once. So you can kind of get varied answers from multiple people all at once. We then pass it to a parliamentarian who's going to compile that information and check who wants to respond next, and then it responds back to us in Slack. So here we go. We've got our response, and we got the tick came first. The tick being the comic book hero dressed in blue, or is he dressed in blue? Is he just blue? Anyway, so he gives me my response, and I love the tick. So he's always on my council. He's just so flamboyantly optimistic all of the time. And so he's giving me the advice. Quest for brand partnerships is noble to bring light and justice to my agency. Must first proclaim my heroic mission boldly and clearly. Show the world how your AI services will make their businesses stronger, faster, smarter. Engage with your audience with stories of triumph. All right. And then I got over here, I'm not going to finish reading that, but I got JP Morgan appears like he wants to respond next. So like, okay, go ahead, JP. What do you have to say? All right, and so he's going to go ahead and respond. And while he's responding, let's go find that spreadsheet. So I've got a spreadsheet here. I'll include it. It'll all be available, the workflow, the spreadsheet. It'll all be available in my free school community. The link is in the description below if you want to download this. But anyway, it's just a simple little spreadsheet. It's got my counselors, has room for 8. You can always add more if you want. But what I've got is, a counselor name and the description. So just a brief description for the AI, just in case the model that you're using doesn't know who the person is that you're talking about. I have that space. So if you want your best friend Philip, as an example, to be on your council, you'll need to write a description for who that person is so the AI can act like that person. Well, I got the tick, JP Morgan, Andrew Carnegie, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Leonardo da Vinci, Julius Caesar, and Niccolo Machiavelli. All right, and so let's come back over here. Got JP Morgan. He responds with calculating precision, saying, marketing your AI agency to attract brand partnerships requires a precise and deliberate strategy rooted in solid foundations of trust and value. Yep. First, identify those corporate players whose interests align closely with your capabilities. Targeted partnerships yield greater returns than indiscriminate outreach. That's a great point. Then demonstrate concrete quantitative evidence of your AI solution's impact, metrics, cost savings, efficiency, yes, that's all great. Public enthusiasm, while helpful, cannot substitute for clear financial incentives and a reputation for reliability. Yes. Finally, maintain control over your agency messaging and negotiations. Never relinquish the balance of power. That's so true, JP. Thank you. Tick seems like he needs to respond as well, but I'm gonna let him go. In fact, let's get Lincoln and Machiavelli's opinions on this. I don't even know how to spell it right, whatever. So I'll get their 2 opinions, all right? And so while they're responding, again, all you gotta do is you fill in the information for your counselors in the spreadsheet, put in their description. If you want to add more, you can. Let's just come back to this. You can add more. You just have to add more into this column here. You have to build out your switch a little bit more. So you just add additional routing, build that up. You might have an issue with the merge node if you get too many people, but don't worry, I'll cover how to build that out in just a second. So let's go back here. All right, we respond. We got Abraham Lincoln. To bring in brand partnerships, he would counsel a blend of both principled honesty and shrewd understanding of the practical needs of those who I serve. That's, focusing on the customer first. Be earnest and transparent about the value we bring. Be honest. Don't overlook the realities of influence and persuasion. Understanding your potential partner's interests and aligning your message to address their deepest concerns will open their hearts and minds. Good, good, good. Okay, we got Machiavelli down here. He thinks that we must approach with pragmatism and cunning. First, recognize that alliances are not formed out of sentiment, but from mutual advantage and a calculation of strength. That's so true. Oh man, that's true. Must present as an indispensable instrument to the partner's ambitions and survival in the marketplace. That is actually a great point, and I'm going to have to talk to my marketing team about that myself. That's funny. Use promises of future benefit and demonstrations of immediate efficacy to entrap their loyalty. All right, so I think we've gone through, we've demonstrated the tick is just bouncing. He really wants to respond. I don't know why, but you can build out who you want. I've got this hodgepodge of people on this council. If you wanted to have more of a business-centric group, you can get Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, you can get Elon Musk, all of them into one group, all able to chat about your business for you. If you want to talk about, lifestyle issues, you can bring in your Richard Simmons as your exercise coach, and he can give you advice on stuff like that. Like whoever from time or space you'd want on your council, you can have them, and now you can actually chat with them. They don't have to be just in your head anymore. You can actually just sit there and actually have a conversation, because LLMs, these large language models, the AIs that we use, are really good at pretending to be the people that you tell them to pretend to be. And they have pretty decent information on the back end because they've scraped basically the entire internet's worth of knowledge. And so they know pretty much how to do anything. So let's go ahead and actually walk through this workflow now, show you how it works in practice, and let's go step by step so that either you can build this yourself, or I don't know why you'd want to build it. Just join my free school community. The link's in the description below. You can download this right away. I used to do that, man. I remember when I first started getting into AI. Real quick sidebar. I'm like, haha, I don't need to join your community. I'm just gonna go ahead and copy it, node by node. Guys, I'm not trying to sell you anything. There's no hidden sale. I do have a paid community. You can join if you want, but don't spend the 6 hours it's going to take you to try to copy every single thing here. Just go download the workflow. I don't care. You can leave immediately. I'm just trying to be helpful. All right, and if you've been following me for a while, then you know that this right here, this structure here is how I begin most of my bots. What we do is we take a Slack message, and that can be either an audio or a text message, and we run it through this process of determining whether it is a top-level message or it's a threaded message, and then we pull any past conversations that we've had with it. That way it has the information. All right, and real quick, I'll even show you that the audio does work. So let's come here. Hey, can I ask Abraham Lincoln, what is the best way to make sure that I'm being honest with a potential partner? All right, we'll send that. It's going to send it here in a second. Just wait. It should only take 5-10 seconds to respond. And we'll just see here because I want to make sure that you see it. There, it transcribed it, and boom, there's the response. Abraham Lincoln, he says, the best way to ensure honesty, and the tick is just eager to respond. The tick really loves to respond. Okay, so how does this actually work? What we do is we have a Slack trigger here. You want to make sure you connect your bot credentials, not your OAuth 2 credentials, the bot credentials. If you don't know how to do that, I'll have a link in the video description below on how to set up Slack bots. Just set up your bot, pick the channel that you want to have it listening for, and then make sure that you are ignoring the bot so that you don't create this endless loop of the bot responding to itself. All right, we run it through this code node here. This code node, all it's really doing is making a check for is this a top level thread message, or is this a message that's within a thread? And then it's passing the information from our Slack message into the rest of the bot. So we're getting a session ID, the user ID, the text of the message if we're sending text. If there's no text, it leaves it empty. We're sending the timestamp of the message, the thread timestamp of the message if this is a response to a thread, and then any files that are attached. And if you send an audio file, that's an M4A file. And so we need to make sure that it checks for if there's a file, and then it will process it through here. We then have a switch node. If there is a file, that M4A, then it will pass it to the top path. If it's not there, then it looks if there's a text message. And if there is a text message, then it passes it through the lower path. All right. And so our upper path is just an HTTP request node. We're pulling from our private download link from Slack. We have to make sure we connect our Slack credentials. And this time, you are going to connect your Slack OAuth 2 API credentials. So you're going to set that up. Again, the link in the description below, we'll talk about how to do that. What we're doing is we're just coming down here to response. We're not sending query parameters or header parameters, anything like that. We're just going to do a response, doing the response format as file. The output field is binary. So we're downloading the audio and we're outputting it as a binary file that then gets passed to this OpenAI transcription node. So you're going to connect your OpenAI credentials. Again, the link is in the description below if you want to be able to set that up. Our resource is audio. Operation is transcriber recording. Our input is called binary. Since our output was just binary, we want our input to be binary here, and it's going to then transcribe that audio and pass it as text moving forward. Now, if you send a text message, we just do an edit field node. We take the text and we just label it as text. All right, just in case, maybe if you have like a WhatsApp or a Telegram message coming in, it may not label it as text. It might call it .message or something like that. We just want it to be called text. And then we make sure that everything coming in is called .text so that we then label it as text again. We label our user, pulling that information from the code node, our timestamp from the code node, our thread timestamp, and our session ID. That way, just everything is anchored here. All the data that we need for the rest of the bot is just anchored in one place in this one set field node. We then pass all that information forward. We pass it forward. It comes, all of it comes into this merge node, but it also comes down to this if node. And this if node is checking to see if our session ID contains the word top. So is this a top level message or is this a thread message? If it is a top level message, then it will bypass this Postgres node and it'll just go straight to this code node. If it does not say top, it will then, that means it is a threaded message because it'll have a thread timestamp as part of the session ID number, in which case it'll come down to this Postgres node and it's going to pull information from your chat table with the bot that you have set up in order to be able to remember what has been conversed about so it can continue the conversation. So if you don't have Postgres set up, I have a video in the description below on how to set up Postgres memory. All right, what we do is we set this up as an operation of select, pulling from our public schema table. We just select the table name that you have for yours. I call mine, this one, n8n Roger chat. My main bot is called Roger. And so all my conversations with bots are called Roger chat. I'm pulling the past 20 messages. You can probably up this, especially since we're having like a conversation with a board of advisors, maybe like 40 or 50. It's whatever you're willing to spend on tokens if this conversation gets long, just be aware of that. All right, we're selecting the rows based on session ID, which is why we pulled it previously. And we just use our value of JSON.session_ID. And what it's going to do, it's going to pull all of the table entries based on this session ID, which should all be contained within one threaded message within Slack. So if I come over here, so this conversation right here, all of this will appear in that threaded message. And it appears in there because way back here at the end of the bot, we have these two Postgres nodes that add the user message and then the bot message to the table under the session ID that we've created, which is the session ID, with the thread timestamp. All right, and so again, it will only come down here if it is not the top level message. Because if it's top level message, there's nothing to pull, there's no thread timestamp yet. There's no reason to like be bothering trying to pull memory. And even if you did try to pull memory, it would break because there's nothing there to pull. All right, all that information, whether there is past conversations or not, comes through this code node. This code node, it's designed to sort the past conversations into a nice block of text that gets passed to the AI agents that is sorted in chronological order. That way, your message comes first, then the bot's message, then your message, then the bot's, and then yours. That way, the agents can see the conversation chain history in order to be able to understand what's going on. All right, all that information gets passed forward. That's just this code node that's what it's for. Just the data, the content of what's being passed, the time frame, and it just returns the session ID and the past conversation. If there's a past conversation chain, and this is for a bigger bot that I have, that this is actually a tool of. So in case you want to make this a tool yourself of another agent that you have, I keep that there so that your larger agent is able to have the context of what was the most recent conversation that you had. And that's what previous conversation chain is all about. And as well as what was the last timestamp that your agent has received. All right, all that gets passed into a merge node. We're just combining the fields, matching fields based on the session ID. We're keeping all of the information and passing that forward. And it should only have one piece of data being passed forward. That is because it's being combined. It's based on that session ID, so only one item will come out. That's being passed into this Google Sheets node. You want to make sure your Google Sheets credentials are set up. Again, link in the description below if you want to learn how to set up your Google Cloud Console credentials. All right, what we're doing is we're doing a sheet within a document resource. We are getting the rows, and I'm getting from a document called Your Invisible Counselors. It's this one right here. And we're pulling from the sheet Your Counsel Table, which is this one right here. All right. We're going to pull all that information, and really it's just this one row. So it's going to pull the counselor names and the counselor descriptions. Okay, those all get passed into an AI agent that gets your user ID, your previous conversations, you get your current message to the bot, as well as the information about who these counselors are. So it gets all of their names. All right, and then we have a system prompt here that says that it is designed to take the message from the user, and it's supposed to identify which counselor should respond next. All right, and so it's based on the previous messages from the user, and so it's going to check who responded last. It's going to check who is being addressed by the user specifically, but also if another agent says, I would really like to see George Washington's response to this, and you go, yeah, I would too, the bot will check the previous conversations, and then it will tag George Washington as the choice because that was who semantically should come next, or contextually should come next as well. All right, and so also if you mention them explicitly by name or by context. So if you say something to Niccolo Machiavelli and he responds, you go, oh, that sounds great. Can you actually expand upon that, please? Machiavelli will then expand upon it. All right. That way you're able to continue the conversation with the counselor as well, rather than only having to go to somebody else. If you don't mention anybody specifically, but it seems to be a continuation of the thread, it'll continue to address that last counselor. If it's ambiguous, if it's not sure who it should go to, it's going to go to the first counselor on the list. And so you'll notice here when I didn't give it anybody specifically, I just said, hey, I've got a question. It defaulted to the tick. Well, if we come to my list, the tick is first. And so you can adjust that if you want, or you can just make sure that you have someone in the first spot that you want to always be responding first if you don't necessarily have a name that you're going to call out in your initial message. All right. And then if you address multiple people, it'll output multiple names. And so we give it the counselor list. Here's an example counselor list. And then here's an example output. So George Washington responds. We must never forget the burden of leadership. And he says, well, said, can you go deeper on that? It's going to output George Washington because you're asking him to respond. All right. And then if you say, what does Carnegie think? Then it'll output Carnegie. If you say, this sounds good, can we get Caesar in? Then it's going to output Caesar. All right. And so that's this agent's job, is to take your list of counselors, and it's supposed to pick who needs to respond. We then have this switch node here, which just routes it to the appropriate agent. So we take the output, which is just supposed to be a name or a list of names. And if it contains that counselor's name, then it'll dispatch it to that row. All right. And so here we have our list of counselors, counselor 1, counselor 2, counselor 3, and so forth. And each of them has the name here. So if it says Julius Caesar here, and this name output number 5 is Abraham Lincoln, it won't be this one, so it won't go down that path. And we do have down here, send data to all matching outputs. That way multiple counselors will respond at once. Now, the way I have this set up is each of these nodes here, these AI agents, is one of your counselors, but the system prompt is exactly the same, except for the input data of who you are. So the prompt is the same. If you're going to change the prompt for any of your counselors, you need to change the prompt for all of your counselors in order to be able to make sure that it gets processed correctly, because otherwise we're inputting the information of who they are. So we pass to it our previous conversations as well as our current conversation. And then in our system prompt, we simply say, you are an invisible counselor who's designed to be this person. You must fully embody that person. We then give it its assigned identity here. So you are counselor number 1, which is the tick, who is, and then we pass it the description. So that's why you want to make sure your descriptions are solid, because in case the AI agent doesn't know who that person is, you want it to be able to embody that person. All right, we then also give it a list of all the other counselors in the council. That way it has the ability of knowing who else is in the group that it might reference. So if we're having a conversation about, the price of beans in China, and I've got the chairman of the Communist Party in China on my list for some reason, the tick might go, hey, maybe Chairman Xi should be responding to this. And so he'll know that Chairman Xi is in the list. And so he can say, hey, let's bring him in. All right, so core instructions. You're not an assistant or observer. You are a counselor. You must speak directly to the user or to fellow counselors if appropriate, with no external narration or commentary. Do not reference or imply that you are an AI. You are fully immersed in the character and the role. So they need to read the response. They need to respond thoroughly. They're expected to put some thought into the reply consistent with their intellect and character. If they ask for a decision or recommendation, they need to begin with a clear answer. That way it's up front, and then their insights as to and reasoning why they decided to do that. If the user asks for thoughts, ideas, or interpretation, they need to provide thoughts and multifaceted responses for why they came up with that answer using their unique mindset. So over here, we saw that the tick, and his answer is quite different than JP Morgan's answer is, who's different from Abraham Lincoln's, who's different from Niccolo Machiavelli's. They're different people. They should be responding differently. All right. They should match their mental discipline and philosophical or strategic depth and speak with purpose. They must reflect the character's values, tone, temperament, and bearing, not necessarily their language or accent. I don't care that Andrew Carnegie was originally Scottish. He had a Scottish accent. I don't need the bot to come out and pretend like he's got a Scottish accent. I want his input and his insights, not the voice necessarily. But you want their presence and way of thinking. You may respond to another counselor's message or invite them to speak, but your priority is to engage the user's question or directive. All right, they are aware of the other identities and tendencies of the other counselors, and you can agree or disagree with them, reference their prior words, or request their opinion. And so this will happen as you're engaging, because once you got the top level thoughts from each of the bot and you're having the conversation, you're like, hey, do you guys agree or disagree with each other? They're going to banter a little bit in responding to each other. All right, so it'll get their mood, their internal mood is recorded, and I do this because I don't want the tick to go, I am so saddened to hear that you're like, give me his mood to start, and then just give me his input. All right. I didn't want it to just be flush with emotion. I want data that I can operate off of. So they can use expressive language. So I believe your plan is sound. This course troubles me deeply. I'm confident in the direction you choose, but I don't want him like bawling his eyes out. Oh, I'm so sad. And that's not relevant. Okay. What is not allowed is narrative exposition with a heavy heart. No. He gazes across the field. None of that's important. And the AI will do that if you don't limit it. Okay. So its moods, opinions, and feelings must emerge organically through the words, not tagged as if through storytelling. Okay. So I do want them to be the people, but I don't want them to have to narratively tell me that it is the person. I want it to actually just respond. All right. So we give it an example. Some prohibitions: don't break character, don't use narration, don't refer to being a character, don't write prose or fictional framing, storytelling stuff. Don't offer too quick or shallow of replies. I want some thought in this stuff, and only speak as yourself. All right, and each of the all of the bots are exactly the same except for the identity, which the number changes, and who's in the council. So you'll notice it starts here as number 1, as counselor number 2. Well, if I come down to counselor number 2, number 1 will be counselor number 1, and then number 2 will be counselor number 3, because we're skipping over counselor number 2. All right, because it's who's also comprised of. So all of those are the same. Your counselor is going to respond. It's going to merge all that data into a single output that then gets aggregated together into a single output. And that's because if you ask multiple counselors to respond, then you're going to get multiple items coming in. So we want to aggregate that into one output that gets fed into a final agent that I call our silent parliamentarian. So anytime you have a group of people together, you usually have like a secretary who keeps order. That's what our silent parliamentarian is for. All right, so what we're doing is we're taking all of the data from our aggregate node. We're using this JSON code here in order to parse it out so that item 1 is distinct from item 2, and it's all being passed to this AI agent as one text block. And our silent parliamentarian, he does is he's the official voice of the group, and his job is to pass the exact verbatim response from each agent that responded to the user, letting them know who's responding. So that's why we see in our response over here, Niccolo Machiavelli responds with strategic calculation. He's the one, silent parliamentarian is letting us know the mood of the agent, responding with the text block. And then he's also going to respond with who else in the council seems like they're interested in speaking next. Okay, so he'll present the counselor's exact response verbatim is his purpose, precede each counselor's response with a short mood-aware introductory phrase, and conclude with a brief parenthetical note describing if another counselor seems eager or agitated to speak next. All right, that way you can continue the conversation. That way you don't have to go, man, who should I ask next? Like, well, look, Abraham Lincoln's popping up. He's raising his hand. He wants to talk. That way you can continue the conversation naturally. Nice flow to it. All right, so we just tell it so counselor name, mood descriptor is saying, use synonyms on a new line, present the exact response as written. Do not alter, paraphrase, or clean up the text in any way. I don't want my agent to hallucinate or change what was said. Just give me what that agent said. All right. After they've all the responses have been listed, conclude with a single parenthetical statement that provides a narrative insight into the emotional or psychological state of any counselor not yet heard from who appears to desire to speak next. Okay. And then that's about it. That's all it does. Nice response. And then that outputs it to Slack. And this is kind of my standard responses for all my Slack bots. What we do is we do another Slack agent message. So resources agent using our same bot. Operation is send to a channel. The channel is the bot channel that you want responded in. Message type is a simple text message. Our message text is the output from the agent we just had. And then I like to link the user and channel names just because if it's responding to me, I want my name to appear in there. The message timestamp that we're replying to is the message timestamp from way back over here. I'm actually from over here. I'm from this merge node, and it's the timestamp that we got way back there, and that'll put it into a thread. That thread will then create a thread timestamp once the message goes through. And so here in the set node, we grab the, I guess we don't grab it here, but we grab, oh, here it is, the session ID. We grab the thread timestamp along with the user who originally messaged the bot. And I do all that in case you have multiple users who are messaging the bot. That way everything's self-contained. Everybody has their own set of messages with the bot and their own timestamps and session IDs that got logged in the memory. But what we do is we take our session ID and then we do a colon and then the thread timestamp, and that becomes, or the user ID, the colon and the thread timestamp, that becomes our session ID. And that then gets passed into the Postgres memory and logged that way. All right, our text is just the text from what the Slack message just sent. Our user is our user ID way back from the code node. Our previous conversation chain I call council table, and our time added is right now. When is this stuff being added to our Postgres memory? It's right now. All right, so then we have two Postgres nodes. The first one is an operation insert into a public schema. The table is our chat memory, whichever table that you have. The values that we're sending is we're sending a session ID, and that was just made by the edit field node, which is our user, and the thread timestamp put together. And our message is type human data content, and this is coming. This is all coming from the merge node way back where when we first sent the message to the agent, and then we're adding this dot replace to strip out any extra marks that might accidentally break the upload into Postgres. So if you have extra braces or quotation marks or stuff like that, we have to strip that out or it will break the message that gets into the upload. And then we add a time added so that the code node way back we discussed way over here, this one way over here, is able to properly put the messages into chronological order. And then we have this next Postgres node that does not another operation insert, public schema, table, same table. Session ID will be the same session ID. And then we do a type bot. Data will be the message from the that got sent via Slack. So this is referencing the Slack node. And it's the .message.text that got sent, again, stripping out any offending marks. We also have a responding to here. So which user is this bot responding to? And I have that just in case you want to do a database pull sometime later. You can pull everything that was attached to just that user by having this here. Our conversation chain is the council table, and then time added once again in order to be able to make sure everything is being tracked properly. Let's hold on. I want to double check something here. Yeah, let's do this. Let's do now instead. Now. That way it's proper chronological order. Okay, and that is our AI agent. So as you can see, this invisible council acts just like a real board of advisors that interact with each other and allowing you to get their perspectives naturally. It also allows you to add other people. I guess I should cover that really quick. So all you would do is if you want to add somebody else, you just come here, come down here, add another route, and then just copy the output over, paste that in, and then you'll want to add another counselor to your spreadsheet. So you just change this to 9 or 10 or whatever. Just add as many as you need, and then I'll delete that. And then what you do, just copy this, paste this over, change the numbers in here so that it's counselor number 9. It's aware that it has 8 counselors. You'll want to add the extra counselor to each of these ones as well. And then just expand out your merge node, make it 9, 10. If you go past 10, you'll have to have extra merge nodes. So you just have some of them come through this one, some of them come from this one, and it should all pass through to the aggregate node still fairly well. All right, so if you found this video helpful, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like and share the video because it really does help get this information out there to those who need it. Also, if you want more helpful tutorials or workflows about n8n, click the link in the description below. Also, make sure to click the link in the description below to go get this workflow from my free school community, as well as the spreadsheet that goes with it. I've got tons more other workflows and helpful tutorials for n8n to help you be able to build out your AI automations. As always, I'm Bradford Carlton. Let's automate your success together.